My name is Arthur Whitman. I'm 105 years old, and I want you to take a long look at this table. Bacon, spinach, a bottle of old cooking oil, and leftover rice. These 4 foods are sitting on the kitchen counters of nearly every household in America tonight. People will warm them up in the microwave. They'll eat them without a second thought, and every time they do, they are feeding cancer. I am not saying this to frighten you. I am saying it because I know. I know because in the spring of 1981, when I was 60 years old, a country doctor in Lancaster named Henley sat me down in his office and told me I had stage 2 colon cancer. That was 45 years ago, and I am sitting here today at 105 in my own kitchen with all my hair and most of my teeth because of what I learned from that diagnosis. I'm going to tell you the 4 foods you must never ever reheat again. And then, at the end of this video, I'm going to tell you something even more important. The deeper reason the cancer came in the first place. The part the doctors will never tell you. Before I go any further, please scroll down and leave your first name, your age, and the town you're listening from in the comments. I read every single one. If this is the first time you're sitting at my table, welcome. If you've watched the lessons on the 1950s suppers and the biblical foods, pull up your chair. This one is heavier than the others. Let me take you back to 1981. I was 60 years old. I had been teaching history at Lancaster High School for 35 years by then. My Eleanor, she was 57 and still working as a nurse at Lancaster General. My daughter Margaret was 33. My son James was 30. I had been carrying something in my chest for 12 years. My boy Thomas had been killed in Vietnam in 1969 at the age of 21, and for 12 years I had not forgiven anything, not the war, not the government, not God, not even myself for letting him enlist when he came to me asking permission. I had not cried. I had not talked about it. I had eaten dinner every night at this same table, and I had not said his name once. In April of 1981, I started losing weight. I started seeing blood I shouldn't have been seeing. I drove myself to Dr. Henley's office, expecting nothing. He came back into the room with the lab results, and he closed the door behind him very quietly. He sat down on his stool. He looked at me for what felt like a full minute, and he said, "Arthur, this is bad. We are looking at colon cancer, stage 2. Eleanor was the one who broke. She came home that night and read the report, and she sat at this kitchen table, and she cried like she had not cried since the day the telegram came about Thomas. That was the night I started asking the question that saved my life. What did I do wrong? I want to tell you what I figured out, because every answer is sitting right here on this table. The first food, processed meats, bacon, ham bologna, hot dogs, the breakfast sausages that most of you ate this morning, the deli ham in your refrigerator right now. When you cook these meats for the first time, they're already a problem. But when you reheat them, when you put yesterday's leftover ham in the microwave and bring it back to a high temperature, you create a chemical called nitrosamines. I'll keep the chemistry simple because I was a history teacher, not a scientist. But every doctor on this earth, including my granddaughter, Sarah at Lancaster General, will confirm what I'm about to say. Nitrosamines are one of the most studied cancer-causing chemicals on this planet. The World Health Organization classifies them in the same category as cigarette smoke and asbestos. They damage the lining of your colon, your stomach, and your pancreas. They are exactly the chemicals that grew the tumor inside me in 1981. For 35 years before that diagnosis, every single Saturday morning, Eleanor cooked a big batch of bacon and ham. We ate it on Saturday. We had leftover bacon in our refrigerator. And on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday, I was warming up that same bacon in the oven, eating it on a sandwich, putting it back in for another go. I was eating slow poison and calling it breakfast. Here is what I do now, and what I want you to do. I cook processed meat once. Whatever I do not eat that day, I throw up. I do not save bacon. I do not save ham. I do not warm up hot dogs. If I want a ham sandwich, I cook the ham fresh that hour. Better still, I have nearly stopped eating processed meat altogether. The grilled fish from my last lesson, the lentils, the wild salmon, those are my proteins now. If you do one thing after this video, stop reheating bacon. The second food is one nobody warned you about. Cooked leafy greens, specifically spinach, kale, beet leaves, and celery. These are some of the healthiest vegetables on earth. I'm not telling you to stop eating them. I'm telling you that cooking them once and reheating them is dangerous. Here's why. These leafy greens are naturally high in something called nitrates. Nitrates by themselves are fine. They actually help your circulation, as I told you in the lentil video. But when you cook these greens, and then you let them sit out, and then you reheat them, the nitrates convert into a different chemical called nitrites. And those nitrites then combine with the proteins in your stomach to form, guess what? Nitrosamines again. The same family of cancer-causing chemicals as the reheated bacon. The European Food Safety Authority has been warning parents about this for 20 years. They tell mothers in Italy, do not reheat spinach for your babies. But here in America, almost no one knows. When Eleanor was a young mother in the 1950s, she'd make a big pot of creamed spinach on Sunday, and we'd eat the leftovers all week. She was a thrifty woman. She came from the Depression. You did not waste food in her kitchen. I now think about that creamed spinach the way I think about a slow leak in a roof. You don't see the damage for years. Then one day, the ceiling falls in. Here is what I do. I cook a small amount of spinach just for that one meal. If I cook leafy greens, I eat them that day, or I do not cook them at all. Raw spinach in a salad, perfectly safe. Reheat it as many times as you want, because you're not reheating it, you're just chewing it. But cooked spinach in the microwave on day 2, throw it out. The third one is the one I think killed more of my generation than anyone will ever admit. Reuse cooking oil. When you fry something in oil, bacon grease, vegetable oil, canola, sunflower, whatever it is, and then you let that oil cool down, save it in a jar, and pour it back into the pan the next day to fry something else. You are eating one of the most toxic substances that exists in a home kitchen. When oil is heated to a frying temperature, it doesn't just get hot, it chemically changes. It oxidizes. It forms compounds called aldehydes and trans fats. These are chemicals that damage your DNA, inflame your blood vessels, and feed cancer. Now, every farm wife in 1950s Pennsylvania kept a coffee can of bacon grease next to the stove. My mother did. Eleanor did. I fried potatoes in it. I fried eggs in it. I cooked chicken in it. The same grease is used over and over for weeks. When I look back at the kitchen of my childhood and the kitchen of my first 50 years of marriage, I see that little coffee can sitting on the stove, and I understand now what my grandparents' generation did not know. The bacon grease itself used once is not the enemy. It's the reusing that's the enemy. Here is what I do. I keep my cooking oil simple. I use real extra virgin olive oil for almost everything. When I make eggs, I use a small pat of real butter once, and I wipe out the pan. I do not store cooking oil after I've used it. I do not have a coffee can of grease on my stove. When I want to fry, I use a small amount of fresh oil for that one meal. Then I wipe out the pan. If you have a bottle of oil that has been sitting on your counter, half used, for more than 2 weeks, throw it out. It has already started to oxidize, even if you haven't reheated it. The fourth food is one almost no one knows about: leftover rice. If you have eaten in any Asian restaurant in your life, you have eaten reheated rice. If you have ever ordered takeout and brought it home and warmed it up the next day, you have eaten reheated rice. There is a bacterium called Bacillus cereus. It naturally lives on uncooked rice grains. Cooking kills the bacteria, but it does not kill the spores. When cooked rice sits out at room temperature, even for 2 hours, those spores wake up and begin producing toxins. Reheating the rice does not kill the toxins. Microwaving the rice does not kill the toxins. The toxins are heat stable. They will go straight into your stomach. For a young, healthy person, this causes food poisoning. For an old person, for someone over 60, these toxins put a slow strain on the pancreas, the kidneys, and the liver. Over the years, over decades, I do not eat leftover rice anymore. Not from a restaurant takeout container. Not from my own pot. If I make rice, I make a small amount, and I eat it for that one meal. And listen carefully. This also goes for leftover pasta. Same family of bacteria. Same problem. 4 foods: processed meats, cooked leafy greens, reused frying oil, leftover rice. If you stop reheating those 4, if you do nothing else after this video, you have done more for your colon, your pancreas, and your stomach than any supplement on the shelf at the wellness store. But hear me now, that is only 30% of the story. I want you to do something for me. Set the food aside for the next few minutes. Don't think about your microwave. Don't think about your refrigerator, because the most important thing I learned from my cancer at 60 was not about the food. When Dr. Henley closed the door of his office in 1981 and told me I had stage 2 cancer, He asked me a question that I have never forgotten. He said, "Arthur, has anything been eating at you?" I almost laughed. I thought he was making a bad doctor's joke about my colon. But he was serious. He leaned forward and he said, "Mr. Whitman, in 40 years of medicine, I have seen something I cannot put in a textbook. The patients who get sick like this, they almost always have something they have not let go of." I sat there in his office, and I thought about Thomas. For 12 years, I had been doing something to my heart that was the exact same thing I had been doing to that bacon in the refrigerator. I had been reheating it. Every morning when I woke up, I would think about Thomas. I would remember the day the telegram came. I would replay the funeral. I would feel the anger at the government rise up again, fresh, as if it had happened yesterday. Then I'd push it down. The next morning, I'd reheat the same memory again. For 12 years, that pain never left my chest. It just sat there, getting more toxic with every reheating. The way nitrosamines build up in bacon over time. The way bacterial toxins build up in rice over time. Your body cannot tell the difference between physical poison and emotional poison. They both create the same hormones, the same inflammation, the same cellular environment, and in that environment, cancer feeds. My old friend Margaret Sullivan, the one I told you about in the biblical foods lesson, she did exactly the same thing for 35 years with her ex-husband Robert. She reheated her hatred of him every single day. She ate organic food. She had a personal trainer. And the pancreatic cancer found her at 79 anyway. I had been doing the same thing with Thomas, with the war, with God. After Dr. Henley said those words to me, I went home. I sat at this same table, and I said something out loud that I had not been able to say for 12 years. I said, "Thomas, I'm sorry I let you go, and I am putting this down today. I have to, because if I don't put it down, I am not going to be here to bury your mother when her time comes." That was the moment my body started to heal. Not the surgery, not the diet change. That moment. The doctors don't have a column for that on the chart. But I am 105 years old, and that 12-year gap between Thomas's death and that moment of forgiveness, that was the cancer. The bacon was just the spark. This is the truth nobody wants to print on a magazine cover, because you cannot sell it in a bottle. If you are holding a memory in your chest, a hurt, a grudge, a betrayal, a regret, and you have been replaying it for years and years, that is a microwave on the inside of your body, and it is heating up poison every single day. You can stop reheating your spinach. You can throw out your old cooking oil. But if you do not stop reheating your wounds, the cancer will find another way in. Truthfulness, compassion, tolerance. 3 words my old student Ruth taught me from an ancient Eastern practice 9 years after the cancer first came. Shan Tien Nyan. That practice did not save me from cancer. That came later. But the seed was planted in 1981 in this very kitchen, the night I forgave my son for dying. So here is your homework from this old teacher. Tonight, 2 things. Thing 1, physical. Go to your kitchen right now today. Open your refrigerator Find one of these 4 foods sitting in there: bacon, cooked spinach, leftover oil, or leftover rice. Throw it out. Just one. That's all I'm asking. Thing 2, spiritual. Sometime in the next 24 hours, I want you to think about one memory you have been reheating, one pain, one person you have not forgiven. Could be a parent, a spouse who left, a child who said something cruel, a war that took someone, a doctor who failed you. You don't have to forgive them out loud. You don't have to call anyone. Just sit in a quiet room, and in your own heart you say, I'm putting this down today. Not for them, for my body. I'm putting down this microwave. That is the second medicine, and it costs nothing. I'm Arthur Whitman, 105 years old, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. If this old teacher said something today that mattered to you, share this video with one person who has been carrying a wound for too long. You'll know who, and if you haven't yet, scroll down. Tell me your name, your age, and your town. I want to know who's sitting at this table with me. I'll see you next time, God willing, and the creek don't rise.